Part 1. The worst day of my life. And then she spoke. The day of the memorial started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that settles in your bones. The kind that makes everything feel heavier. The curtains, the air, even. Your own skin. It had been 3 weeks since I lost the baby. And every day since then had felt like I was floating through someone else's life. Watching it crumble in slow motion. The memorial wasn't my idea. It was my husband's. Mark thought it might help me heal or at least give some structure to the grief. Something to hold on to besides cold ultrasound photos and hospital wristbands. I didn't want it. But I said yes. Because when you're that broken, you say yes to anything that sounds remotely like survival. My parents were already in the living room when I came down the stairs. My mom gave me that look, the one she'd been giving me since the miscarriage. Equal parts pity and fear. Like I might shatter if someone breathed too loudly. You look beautiful, sweetie, she said. Even though I hadn't put on makeup and my dress still had a stain near the hem. I just nodded. I didn't have words for small talk. Guests began arriving around noon. Friends, neighbors, people who had held us together with casseroles and awkward hugs. I appreciated them, even if I couldn't stand to look most of them in the eye. Every glance felt like a reminder. They knew what I lost, and then she walked in, got my sister, Emily. She was wearing white. Who wears white to a memorial. Her smile was bright, too bright, like she'd forgotten where she was. She floated in on heels that clicked too loudly against the hardwood floor, clinging to her husband like they were arriving at a cocktail party instead of a room pulsing with grief. I forced a smile, barely. Hi, she said, leaning in to kiss. My cheek. I turned just enough for her to miss. Not because I was angry, not yet, but because her perfume made me nauseous. You holding up? She asked, her voice high and sugary. I didn't answer. Just gave her that blank look I'd perfected in therapy. The one that meant don't dig, don't prod, don't pretend. She backed off, but only slightly. I brought something for the table, she said, holding up a bag of cookies wrapped in pastel ribbon. Pastel ribbons at a miscarriage memorial. I stared at them like they were knives. Oh, she added quickly, they're gluten-free. I remembered. Mark touched my back gently, grounding me. I focused on his hand and not on the pink and blue specks on the cookies. People settled in. Some shared memories. Others said prayers. My father read a passage from a journal I hadn't touched since the hospital. There were candles, tissue boxes, trembling voices. Then someone suggested we go around and share what the moment meant to us, how the loss had touched us. What we'd learned. I wasn't ready for that. But before I could say anything, Emily stood up. She clinked her glass with a spoon. Everyone turned toward her. I know this is a hard time, she began, placing a hand on her stomach. And I know we're all here for my sister, who has been through a lot. A lot. The words hung in the air like static. She continued. But life is about balance, right? And sometimes, out of sadness comes joy. Mark stiffened beside me. I stopped breathing. Emily smiled, eyes glassy with staged emotion. So, I just wanted to share that I'm pregnant. The room fell silent, not soft, respectful silence. Dead silence. The kind that follows a gunshot. I just found out last week. She went on. We weren't planning to announce it yet, but I just felt like maybe this was the right time. A sign. A reminder that life continues. Someone gasped. Someone else dropped a fork that my hands went numb. She beamed, rubbing her stomach like it was some kind of prize. 3 months along. We're so excited. My mother made a strangled sound. My dad closed his eyes. Mark put a hand on my arm, but I couldn't feel it. My sister, my own sister, had just used my miscarriage memorial as a stage for her. Pregnancy announcement. No one moved. No one said a word. Until I stood up. Out, I said, my voice flat. Controlled. Emily blinked. What? I pointed at the door. Get out. She looked stunned. But this isn't your moment, I said, louder now. This isn't your day. And it sure as hell isn't about you. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought, I thought it would bring hope. I laughed. A short, bitter sound. Hope? You thought announcing a pregnancy at my miscarriage memorial would bring hope? Her husband put a hand on her shoulder, trying to steer her back, but she resisted. I just wanted to share something beautiful, she whispered. You wanted attention, I snapped. Like you always do, you couldn't let one day not be about you. People started whispering. Mark tried to calm me, but I pulled away. You've always done this, I said. My birthday, my graduation, even my wedding. Somehow, it always turns into the Emily show. Her eyes widened. That's not fair. No. You wore white to my wedding, Emily. She flushed. And now this? This is a new low. Even for you. She looked at our parents for help. They stayed seated. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from shaking. You're not welcome here. Not today. For a moment, I thought, she might argue. But then, for the first time in her life, she turned and left. Her heels clicked all the way to the door. Her husband followed, head down. The door closed behind them. The room exhaled. I sat down. No one spoke for a long time. That night, I lay in bed, replaying it all. The cookies, the ribbon, the glass clink, the smile. I wanted to forget it, to delete it from the memory of that day. But I couldn't. And deep down, and I knew this wasn't over. Emily never backed down for long. And part of me was scared to find out what would come next. Part 2, damage control. The next morning, my phone exploded. Voicemails, missed calls, texts that pinged in furious. Bursts until I finally turned off notifications altogether. Most of them were from extended family, a few from coworkers who had somehow already heard. And, of course, 5 separate messages from Emily, each one more desperate than the last. Please call me. I didn't mean to upset you. Can we talk? This is all a misunderstanding. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. That last one stuck with me. Not. I'm sorry. Not. I didn't realize how hurtful it was. Just, you embarrassed me. I tossed the phone across the bed and pulled the blankets over my head, letting the weight of them press me deeper into the mattress. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to crawl back into the silence before the memorial, when grief had felt heavy but at least pure. Not corrupted. Not hijack. Mark came in a few minutes later holding a mug of tea. She's still calling? He asked gently. I nodded under the blanket. He set the mug on the nightstand and sat beside me. You don't have to respond. Not? Yet. Maybe not ever. I know, I mumbled. But you know what's going to happen now, right? He didn't answer, but we both knew Emily had always been the golden child, the one people gravitated to. She knew how to turn tears on like a faucet, how to shrink her voice into something fragile and tragic whenever she needed forgiveness. She'd done it since we were kids. Once, she crashed my bike into the neighbor's car and told my parents I'd left it in the driveway. I got grounded. She got ice cream. Some people have charisma. Emily had a weaponized version of it. Sure enough, within hours, the story had begun to mutate. First it was. Emily just wanted to bring hope into a dark moment. Then, she didn't know the memorial would be so serious. And finally, she's pregnant. Maybe she's emotional. Cut her some slack. No one asked how I was doing. No one seemed to care that I just buried the idea of motherhood, only to watch my sister resurrect it as a party trick. That afternoon, my mom called. I almost didn't pick up, but some part of me hoped maybe she'd be on my side. Sweetheart, she began, her voice cautious. Emily's really upset. I closed my eyes. I'm sure she is. She said you screamed at her. I told her to leave. I didn't scream. Well, people felt very uncomfortable. So did I, when she turned my memorial into her announcement platform. A pause. She just wasn't thinking. That's the problem. I snapped. She never thinks. She just does whatever. Makes her the center of attention and expects everyone to applaud. She's your sister. No, she's your daughter. And you always pick her, no matter what she does. Silence. I regretted it the second I said it. but only a little. You're grieving, Mom said finally, voice tight. I'll give you space. The line went dead. Mark suggested we get out of town for a few days. There's that cabin we rented last year, he said. By the lake, no signal, no drama, just trees and quiet. It sounded like oxygen. We packed light, just enough for a weekend, and left early the next morning. I didn't even tell anyone we were going, for the first time in weeks. I slept deeply. DREMLE says lie when I woke. Mark was already making breakfast. The smell of eggs and toast grounded me in a way I didn't expect. I sat outside with my tea, watching mist roll off the lake. No emails, no calls, just silence. The good kind. Finally, we hiked. We didn't talk about Emily, not until the third night, we were sitting by the fire, when Mark finally said it. You know she's going to spend this. I stared into the flames. She already is. Then what do you want to do? I don't. No, you could write something, he suggested. A post. Your version of what happened. I don't want to fight her publicly. It's not about fighting. It's about your story being heard. The word story landed differently. He was right. Emily had taken control of the narrative. Again, and this time. It hurt more than ever. Back home, I opened a blank document. I didn't plan to publish it. Not yet. But I needed to write so I wrote about the miscarriage, about the silence, about the candles and the cookies and the white dress. I wrote about the sound of her spoon hitting the glass, the way her smile felt like a slap, the way my own body felt like a betrayal. And I wrote the line that had haunted me most since that day. She stood in the ashes of my loss and planted a flag. When I finished, I cried. For the first time, really cried. Then I saved the file and closed the laptop. A week later, Emily showed up at my door. No warning. Just knocked. Holding a bag of groceries like this was any other day. Mark wasn't home. I almost didn't open it, but I did. She looked composed, makeup free, sweater too big, like someone trying to look harmless. Can we talk? She asked. I didn't step aside. Just 5 minutes, she said, please. I hesitated, then moved back. She came in slowly, setting the bag on the counter like it mattered. She didn't sit. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About what happened. Good, I said flatly. I shouldn't have done it. I didn't respond. I was scared and excited. And I thought it might make you feel, don't? I cut her off. Don't pretend this was about me. She flinched. I wanted to share something special. You wanted attention, and you got it. Congratulations. Her eyes filled, but I didn't trust the tears. I didn't mean to hurt. But you did. She nodded slowly. I've always felt like you had everything, she said suddenly. The stable marriage, the career, the house. I didn't mean to be jealous, but I was. And when I got pregnant, I don't know. I wanted to feel like I had something first, for once. I stared at her. That's why you hijacked my memorial. She looked away. I'm not proud of it. I laughed bitterly. Good. I want to fix this, she said quietly. You can't. I want us to be okay. You want to be forgiven. Not the same thing. She didn't speak. After a moment, she picked up the grocery bag and set it on the table. There's soup. In there, she said, and some of that tea you like. I didn't respond. She paused in the doorway. I'll go, she whispered. But I'm sorry, I really am. She left. I stood alone in the hallway for a long time. Then I opened the bag and threw it in the trash that night. I opened the document again. This time, I hit post. Not out of revenge, but out of truth, because for once, I wanted my voice to be the loudest one in the room. Part 3. When truth goes public. It only took 5 hours. 5 hours between me pressing post and my phone becoming a war zone. Hadn't written names. I hadn't even used the word sister. But everyone knew, every family member, every mutual friend, every person who'd sat silently at that memorial and watched Emily turn it into her own twisted spotlight. They read my words and they knew at first. The comments were quiet, supportive, strangers and friends alike sharing their own stories of grief being overshadowed, of insensitive siblings, of trauma minimized by someone else's joy. Some wrote paragraphs, some wrote only thank you. But all of them told me one thing: I wasn't alone. For the first time since the miscarriage, I felt seen. But then the backlash started, not from strangers, from blood. I don't think it was fair to post that publicly. Emily's going through a hard time too, you know? You should have handled this privately. And the one that hit hardest, you're exploiting your grief for attention. Emily hadn't said anything directly, but I knew she'd read it. I knew because her husband unfollowed me within 20 minutes. Because her best friend shared a vague Instagram story that said, some people will always be victims in their own heads. I almost deleted the post, but then I remembered the way her voice had cut through the candlelight. The way she'd smiled, like she was doing us all a favor. And I let the post stay. Because the truth deserves to exist. Even if it makes people uncomfortable. The next day, I received an email from a journalist. She ran a podcast on grief, loss, and complicated family dynamics. Said a mutual friend had sent her the post. Asked if I'd consider sharing more. At first, I hesitated. I didn't want to become a spectacle. But then I realized I was already one. Emily had made sure of that. So I agreed. The interview was raw. She didn't pry, just let me speak. I talked about the miscarriage, about the silence, about the weight of unspoken grief. I cried more than I expected. She left most of it in the final cut. When the episode aired, it exploded. Thousands of listens in the first day, emails from listeners. Some thanked me. Some begged me to keep speaking. A few shared stories worse than mine. Weddings ruined, eulogies hijacked, babies EPONIZ. It was horrifying and oddly comforting because, again, I wasn't alone. But Emily wasn't quiet for long. A week later, she posted a photo on Instagram. Her in a field of sunflowers, cradling her belly, captioned, "Not everyone will celebrate your joy. Some will resent it, but you deserve happiness anyway." 50,000 likes, hundreds of comments. "You're glowing. Ignore the haters. You deserve this more than anyone." The message was clear. I was the villain, and she was the radiant mother. I stared at the screen for a long time. Mark sat beside me in silence. Finally, he said, "She doesn't get to rewrite what happened. She already has. You don't need to compete with her." "I'm not," I said, voice hoarse. "But I won't let her erase me either." My inbox became a confessional. More and more women writing to say, "This happened to me too. Miscarriages ignored. Grief silenced. Joy weaponized against them." One woman wrote, "My sister announced her engagement at my daughter's funeral. I haven't spoken to her in 5 years." Another, "My cousin posted her gender reveal photos the same day I told the family I was starting chemo." There was a pattern, a culture of stolen spaces, of joy bulldozing pain, and of women being told to be happy for others while bleeding in silence. So I wrote another post. This one wasn't about Emily, not directly. It was about boundaries. About how we teach people, especially women, that to grieve out loud is selfish, that to demand space for sorrow is drama, that joy should always be louder. I wrote, "We tell people not to cry at baby showers, not to grieve during birthdays, not to ruin the mood. But what about the people whose lives have already been ruined? Do they not get to speak?" That post went viral. 100,000 shares in 3 days. Even celebrities reposted it. Some shared their own stories. One actress wrote, "My miscarriage was treated like a scheduling conflict. Thank you for giving it a voice." I didn't feel powerful. I felt responsible. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was about something much bigger. And it terrified me that night. I got a voicemail from my dad. He didn't leave messages often. "Hey, kiddo. I read the post. The big one. I'm sorry we didn't listen sooner. I didn't realize how much pain you were holding. I don't have the right words, but I'm proud of you. Call me when you're ready." I cried. Not because he said the right thing. Because he said anything at all. Emily finally broke her silence. She emailed me directly. No subject line. Just a few lines. I didn't realize how much this hurt you. I wish you had told me before. Going public. I'm getting death threats now. I hope you're happy. There it was again. The deflection. I didn't respond. Instead, I spoke to the podcast host again. She asked if I'd come back for a follow-up episode. I said yes. This time, we talked about forgiveness, talked about how it's not always about reconciliation. Sometimes forgiveness is choosing not to let anger rot you from the inside. I don't hate her, I said on air. But I don't trust her either, and I don't have to. That line hit home for a lot of people. I got dozens of emails that just said, thank you. I needed to hear that. Meanwhile, Emily's online persona flourished. She became a motherhood influencer almost overnight. Photo shoots, collaborations, baby registry links, sponsored posts about prenatal vitamins and maternity dresses. But I noticed something. The smile was a little too sharp. The captions a little too defensive. She was winning the internet but losing something else. One night, Mark and I sat on the back porch, watching fireflies blink through the dark. I keep waiting to feel closure. Said. Mark sipped his tea. Maybe closure's a myth. Then what's left? Peace, eventually. Do you think I did the right thing? He looked at me. I think you told the truth. That's always the right thing. Weeks passed. My story became a headline. Then a trend. Then the quiet part of internet memory. But the messages never stopped. Every week, someone else reached out. Every week, another person said, me too. I kept all the messages, not to flatter my ego,